So, Austin, at the premiere the other night, it received a 12-minute standing ovation, which is the current record for Cannes this year,
Wow.
and numerous bouts of applause within it. What was it like being in the theater in that moment when literally people are just losing it for what you did?
That was the most magical night of my life. I hadn't seen the film before. This is my very first Cannes, and this film's been a part of my life for 3 years. For 2 years of that, I didn't do anything else, and so I poured my heart and soul into it, and I was really nervous. And then to feel the love coming off the audience at the end, and even at points throughout the film, there were about 4 points in the film where people broke into applause, and it just brought me to tears in the movie. Seeing it for the first time, I was setting myself up for a teary night, and it was amazing. It felt great. And
then you and Priscilla at the end, and that has been all over. What was that like, just turning to her after that?
Unbelievable, unbelievable. It's so moving to get to look into Priscilla's eyes and see what this movie has meant to her, and for her to say things like, if Elvis was here, what he would feel. And I mean, it's beyond words how that moves me, really.
Yeah. And did you get to see her when you made your pilgrimage to Graceland?
Yeah,
talk about that.
The very first time I went to Graceland, I met Priscilla. And I met her right before I walked into the house. And Baz and I went on this road trip. We went and recorded in Nashville at RCAB there, and then drove to Memphis. And it was so special because I was right next door to Graceland, and I go up and I meet Priscilla, and she's just so ethereal and angelic, and she gave me this big hug and said, "You have a lot of support." And then she said, "Have you been over to Graceland yet?" And I said, "Not yet, I'm about to go." And she said, I believe that's where his spirit is. And I went over there, and I just felt it. And I just was in the house by myself, and I just walked around by myself and sat down on the stairs and it just took it all in, and just thinking about all the nights that he spent there and the Christmases with his mom, and it was really magical for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone has to talk about the voice on it, but I know it's like a lot of training. So you went through 2 years of this. So talk about the journey, just with the vocal training aspect of it too, because is it true you never really professionally sang before? Is this true?
Yeah, no, I never sang for anybody before.
How?
Yeah, it's crazy that I got into this. It's just sheer determination. So my beginning was just absorbing everything. I felt like an octopus with my arms just reaching out, trying to grab every bit of information on Elvis. I read every book that was written. I watched every bit of footage. I listened to every song that he had ever recorded, and all the B-sides and everything. And then I started having to break it up into pieces, because his voice changed a lot over the years. And so it wasn't just one voice. It was hearing how his voice changed from 54 to 56 to 68 to 72, and the whole way through. And I knew we were going to be filming out of sequence, so I had to get really specific about each one, and so that's what I did. And I was privileged because I had some of the best dialect coaches in the world to help me, and I worked with about 5 different people, and just on the speaking voice, and just got a little bit. I'm such a sponge. I like to take little bits from a lot of different teachers, and then at the end of the day, during COVID, I had these 6 months where I wasn't working with anybody. And we were about 6 days out from shooting before COVID, so that was the time where I really felt like it sunk in. And so that was the silver lining of that time, because I just had time to walk down the beach for 4 hours listening to Elvis's voice,
and not a bad place in the middle of Australia.
No.
Before they make me get out of here, I do want to ask you about this one. The physical toll of doing all that you did, of living in it so much. And I know you talked about it recently, how it took a physical toll, but I want to talk about that, but more, how did you come back from it? How did you bring yourself back from that place that literally sent you to the hospital after you wrapped?
Yeah, I did go to the hospital the day after I finished. I spent a week in bed, and then I had to fly straight to London, and I started filming something else. And it seemed I couldn't fathom playing another role at the time. Because I felt that I needed this decompression time, and I talked to Tom about it. I talked to Baz, and I really said, "What do you think? What do you do at the end?" Because I had a complete existential crisis when I finished the film, because I didn't know what my life was anymore, you know, and so and Tom said, you know, I think it could be really healthy for you to just jump into something and have to explore and learn and do new things, and because I probably would have sunk into a pretty deep depression if I hadn't done anything. So while I wanted to just go to the Bahamas and lay on the beach for like 3 months, I ended up going straight to London. And after this hospital and being in a bed for a week, and I went to boot camp because I was doing a show that takes place in the military. So I went straight to boot camp. So suddenly I'm in fatigues and I'm going on all these runs and doing physical training and all these things, and it was really interesting. It was because Baz calls it the methadone program. Like, how do you get off at the end? And for me, that was mine, I guess, because you go from being Elvis, he's the center of every room. He is this really magnetic figure, and then suddenly now I'm just one of a ton of guys in fatigues. And that's what Elvis went through when he went to the Army. So it was another one of those wild parallels that I just thought, what's life
You just
right
live
now?
in Elvis
It's
every
wild.
turn, sir.
Yeah.